All right. So you have no idea what I'm about to ask you right now, but you have to come up with the best answer that you possibly can because I'm putting you on the spot. So the challenge is you have to, somebody comes in, they put a gun to your head and your family member or best friend, whoever's there with you, doesn't matter. Somebody really close you care about, wife, whatever. And they say, you have to get this person to, let's just say they have weight to lose. You have to get this person to lose 15, let's say 20 pounds in the next 6 months. But the catch is you can only give them, it has to fit on one hand. So you can only give them 5 key points. Okay. So you can't go more than 5 things. And you have to do it in a way that they actually keep the weight off. So if they regain the 15 to 20 pounds in the next 6 months, you guys both die. Right. So you have to, what kind of advice would you give this person?
Oh,
In the
wow.
next 6 months, they have to lose at least 15 to 20 pounds. And 6 months beyond that, they have to keep it off. So this killer is going to check back in with you, not only at the 6 month mark to make sure part A is accomplished, but part B is, and in the next 6 months, did they keep it off? So what's
And
your 5?
I got 5 pieces of
You got
advice.
5 pieces. Yeah, you could tell them anything you want, like any suggestions, anything, but you can only limit it to 5 things.
Okay. Well, I mean, what pops into my head, and I think so. One of the biggest key approaches to this is like, I'm not gonna. I might throw these 5 at them, right away, but I'm not necessarily gonna start them at like what the goal is, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, first thing that comes to mind is uh, protein, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure that they get up, that they ease their way up to eating 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? I want them to get up to that. Now we'll figure out where they're at and how quickly that can happen, right? So
Yep.
that's number one, is we need them eating that much protein, right? That's going to help obviously with, protein is going to help with building muscle, or, keeping the muscle that you have when you're in a calorie deficit, which is huge because muscle burns more calories at rest. Like a 1 pound of muscle burns more calories than 1 pound of fat. It also, like, you burn more calories digesting protein than you do other things. We don't need to go into that stuff, but that's number one. Number two would be steps, right? Getting them up to 10,000 steps a day, right? The getting them up there, and that's like a non-negotiable at a certain point. That's going to go a long way. And these things, like, if they're not doing these things, like, this is going to create a calorie deficit in itself. The protein, the movement, and then getting them into a workout routine, getting them up to at least 3 to 5 days per week of a nice resistance training plan. So those are my 3 starting ones: protein, that 10,000 steps, 3 to 5 days a week of a resistance training program. Those 3 alone are going to create a calorie deficit, right?
Yeah.
If they're not, so we don't even necessarily need to worry about that piece of it because it's going to be created by itself.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, it would be around sleep.
Yep.
So I would have them develop some sort of nighttime routine, right? Really, like your 3-2-1,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a great approach to nighttime for them, because sleep's obviously going to make huge impacts with their satiety, like how full they are the next day, what they're grabbing and reaching towards when it comes to the quality of food. And so I would say, like, the 3-2-1 would be a good thing that I would give them, is like 3 hours before, stop eating, right? 2 hours before is your stop drinking, right? That's what you put.
Exercise, movement.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then 1 hour before is getting
Screen
away from
time.
screens, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be a really, really good one for this person. And then the last one's tough, right? Because what comes to mind are, I think that the best one would be hydration for them.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where I'm going to go, is get them eating half their body weight in ounces
Yep.
or drinking half their body weight in ounces of water. So if they
Yeah.
weigh 200 pounds, have them drink 100 ounces a day. Now, if they're way overweight, I would have them, go for goal body weight, is what I've always
Yeah.
done with clients that are more overweight. Would be like somebody was 300 pounds and they wanted to get down to 240 I would have them go base their ounces of water off of their goal body weight, right?
Yeah.
120 ounces a day. And those are probably my 5 that I would do. So hydration, half body weight in ounces of water a day, 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein, 10,000 steps a day, 3 to 5 workouts per week, resistance training, and sleep routine
Pretty
at night.
solid, man. Yeah, I think you got a good chance there. It's
What do
funny,
you?
like I'm creating a 14-day challenge right now that I'm getting ready to run in my group, and I have 3 basically like mini aspects that are included, and it's called the energy kickstart. So we're trying to increase and improve energy, and it's something that you can like kind of tangibly measure on a scale from 1 to 10. How's your energy on after day 14 measure? But the vehicles that I'm using are, one, first and foremost, is they're going to focus on nutrition, specifically hitting a protein target. It's the first thing we're doing, right? Like focus on protein. The second thing, they get to pick their movement. So based on their skill level, they're either going to do 3 to 5 days of full body split strength training, or which I'll provide the workouts, or they can shoot for 8 to 10,000 steps a day. They pick one or the other. They can commit. If they're a rock star and they're already doing one, great. You can do both of them. And the last one was that I included in there was mindset. I think that could be also interchangeable for your 5 as well. That's a tough one too, but mindset more so, thinking on the terms of long term, long enough time horizon, understanding your trajectory and the mindset that it takes to be able to not only get these things that we're going for, but keep them and sustain them, and understanding that there's no, like, you don't just get to where you're trying to go and then all of a sudden you just kick your feet up and you relax and you stop doing the things that got you there. So it's more of like the longevity, sustainability mindset, prepping them and getting them in the right headspace to be able to be successful long term. So literally those things that you said, like in the order, is the exact order that I created. I just created a challenge around too. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, dude, those things are tried and true and they work. And it's funny, it's because like people will, like if they're in that same scenario, like somebody had a gun to their head, they have to lose 15 to 20 pounds and keep it off for the next 6 months. It's like the things that you just said are the things that are tried and true and consistent, and they work, right? The funny thing is like the majority of people will be like, oh, we're going to cut out all of our carbs. Like I'm going to have them run cardio. And remember, the kicker to the challenges in the next 6 months, they have to have kept the weight off, like, so they
Yeah.
can't regain it. Right. So yeah, that's great. I think most people think in like stage 1 mentality when they're not thinking about, second, third, and fourth quarter coming down the road. So yeah, dude, great advice. I would say that the percentages for your family member or friend staying alive would be extremely high, very high. So more so than somebody doing some sort of extreme route and told, their answer was like, yeah, we're going to cut carbs, we're going to do keto, we're going to train twice a day, we're going to do some sort of extreme, right? Like, you might be able to achieve part 1 of that challenge, right, in the first 6 months and get the weight off. Great. But part 2 is, can you keep it off? And so I think that's where we have a problem as a society, is like, we don't have the weight loss problem. We don't have the getting in shape problem. We have the sustaining what we first achieved or initially achieved from the thing that we did, because we probably most likely did it in an unsustainable way. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the big message that we're trying to get across here, is like, you didn't say anything that was like, putting that person in like extreme danger, or like is going to exhaust them to a certain point where they're not able to sustain. Like, no, dude, everything that you said. And you also mentioned that you're going to progress them in a certain fashion too. Like if they weren't close in protein, like it was something that you were going to progress them up to, like, just kind of based on where they're at. And it's just like, yeah, man, that's absolutely the way to go.
Yeah. Well, that's what that's the huge thing, right? Is that progressing, because it's the meeting people where they're at that keeps them with the habits, right? Because I think a lot of people, they they might pick some of those things from that list that I had, but they're going to go right up to that number, right? They're going to
Mm,
go from not moving at all to 10,000 steps a day. They're going to go from not working out at all to 5 workouts a week. they're going to go from not eating much protein to a gram per pound of body weight. And that's where, it's tough to stick with it, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard. So I think that's the most important piece of it. Isn't even necessarily what you choose, but progressing your way up to goals for those things in a way that allows you to stick with it. Because that's like those habits eventually they become second nature, and you live your life in a way that is easy to get these things in, right? Or it just becomes a part of your plan. You just don't think about it. It's like I get up and I work out. I go on a walk, right? I make sure that, I just set myself up with when I buy groceries, I buy these things, right? And then at the start of the week, I throw chicken in the crock pot, right? It's like this, you just eventually do these things and you have these habits. It doesn't happen overnight, and it can be tough in the process of it when it's new and you're not used to doing these things. And, the first few weeks, especially of developing a habit, it's just like, oh, it's pulling teeth, and you got to remind yourself in different ways. And you have to, push through some soreness and not feeling your best and being tired. And eventually it just becomes second nature. And it's like, oh, this is easy. Like it's easy to do these things. So, yeah. Do you have anything else like, and one thing actually I was thinking about, so you had mentioned mindset, right? Like you're like some sort of mindset thing. What's a tangible thing that you're going to give your crew to work on that? Because it's not necessarily easy to do that, right? To have something that's like, oh, this is tangible, that's going to help me think in long-term approach as opposed to like these short gains.
Yeah, it's always a challenge when running a 14-day, a 21-day, a 28-day thing, because it almost goes against everything that I say and do. However, I'm all about getting people quick wins and getting people started. That is my saying, is start sloppy, right? Like I want to get people in imperfect circumstances, and if I can help them get the ball rolling for whatever reason, we just naturally as humans gravitate towards this like 14-day challenge, 21-day challenge, this like thing that has this end in mind, when in actuality I want to open their eyes to, once they get the ball rolling and they've actually started and engaged the thing, I want to immediately take their mindset and eliminate this hypothetical or arbitrary finish line that they're going to be done once they get to a certain point. And so I really want to encourage people to adopt the mindset of, I want you to be able to progress and move at the pace at which is good for you, that allows you to continue to keep doing this and staying consistent. Like not the pace that's blazing that gets you the results the fastest, but it also requires you to give up the fastest because you got there in such an unsustainable way. So my biggest thing is like, pick the pace that's going to stretch you a little bit, but it allows one thing for you to do, and that's to be consistent day in and day out. I don't care how well or obnoxiously off you are in terms of execution. I need you to have the mindset of like, I need to show up for myself in some way, shape, or form each and every single day. And I'm going to choose the pace in which I'm able to do that. And when you can do that, you'll naturally find yourself kind of like building and progressing off of that, versus like, damn, Matt's running this 14-day challenge, I got to crush it in 14 days. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. It's like, that's cool. But what are you doing for the next 6 months? What are you doing for the next 12 months, the next 6 years? I want you to be able to adopt a pace that when you look back 6 months from now, you're like, man, it wasn't pretty, but I consistently built on top of what I started, and I'm still going. Like I haven't stopped. And that's where I want people to be at, not like how lightning fast they were in the first, couple weeks. Like that's cool. Like it looks cool and you can like pat yourself on the back for it. But I want you to be patting yourself on the back in the next 6 months from now, and saying that you didn't give up. And that's the biggest thing. So from a mindset perspective, that's where I want to shift people to, is like, yes, this is 14 days, or yes, this is to get you going, but understand that's a marketing ploy to get you to do something, right? I'm going to be real with you now and say that like, now you need to find the speed in which you can match and you can stay consistent with, because this whole game is about consistency, whether you're going to stick this thing out or not. Once they accept that and they know that, then I think they'll be set up for success, and they can move at their own pace, and they can enjoy, really just settle in, right? We call it enjoying the journey, and just like embracing it. Like that's what it's about. Like, cause you'll get you'll get the other things that you're trying to work towards, because you're so engaged and bought into your process and enjoying it, that the things that you initially started out to do, like those will come as a byproduct, because you're so focused on the day-to-day, being consistent, showing up for yourself imperfectly, giving it what you got for that day. And when you do that, the weight loss will come, the higher energy levels will come, the boosting confidence will come, the being healthy and fitter for your kids and your family will come. Like all that stuff will come. But it's only because you have the right mindset to be able to do this for a long time.
Yeah. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
It really goes down to that question almost of what can you stick to? Like, what can you stick to for life? And also like, what can you do on your worst day? Because I think that's the big thing. It's like, what can you accomplish even when life's crazy and hectic and you're having that day where it seems like you can't do anything? Like, what can you still accomplish then? Like, that's the kind of pace that needs to happen. Or that's what needs to be like your non-negotiable, is like that. Yeah. And then it's like, you can do extra on the days when you can, but just doing what you can now and building on it. And eventually that floor comes up, right? It's like you can do more and you get to where you want to be. So I love it, man. That was a great question on that. It's
great answer. You had a great answer.
Appreciate it, dude. Well, we appreciate you guys out there. Again, make sure you do subscribe and follow if you enjoy this content we toss out here every week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we are dropping podcasts. 6 a.m. Pacific time is when they drop on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So if you do enjoy it, make sure you don't miss those ones. But also, if you do have any podcasts that you really like and think somebody could benefit from, make sure you do send that over to them, share it with them. It helps us out a lot and gets our message out there. So we appreciate you. Hope you have a good rest of the day, and we will be talking to you soon.